Check, check, 1, 2. Can you hear me now? Okay. Excellent. Excellent. All right, guys. So let's get into it, guys. And Crazy Girl, I see you in here. I appreciate y'all showing up. So I wanted to address the 2K launch situation, this Fire Ronnie 2K hashtag, the fix 2K, because I think there are some things about this that are going to blow over, but there's important things about this that shouldn't blow over, right? So first things first, this is not a rant or a roast video to capitalize off of people's frustrations with the game or the launch or anything like that. That's not the point of this video. The point of this video is that if we don't discuss the truth about what's happening in a reasonable way, if we don't get if we're not accurate about what we say about the mistakes that 2K is making, then you only have two sides. You have the people who say nothing, who are completely silent, which is most people, and then you have the angry, frustrated, emotional people with bad information. And when that happens, that allows 2K to dismiss a lot of true feelings and true responses that are rooted in fact when you just speak out of frustration. So this is not a roast. This is not out of frustration. I'm actually not even personally frustrated with the launch. I've been in this community a long time. I've seen disastrous launches from 2K and other companies so often. I don't personally expect the game to work in the first couple of days. I realize that's not, hey, I paid $60, it should work on the first day. Yeah, emotionally, that feels right, but factually, 2K is a gigantic, gigantic company. If you go through the credits of the game, you see hundreds of names, and each one of those names is a human being, and each human being is an opportunity for a mistake to be made. So when a game has millions of people jump into it, they might need a couple of days to get it right. I feel like most of the stuff that they got wrong on launch will be worked out, but there are some things that they got wrong on launch that they can't get worked out, that can't be repaired. So let's talk about it. Ronnie Singh, aka Ronnie2K, said things to the community directly that are not true. He said things that are not true. And and he's the voice of 2K as most people see him, right? We're just getting into facts right now. This is not slandering him. We're just talking straight facts about what actually happened. This is not a personal attack on Ronnie2K. Because at the end of the day, he is a very small part of the 2K machine overall, right? But the fact of the matter is, he has to hold these screw ups. And normally, if Ronnie delivers bad information, if any marketing person delivers bad information, it can be, a meme, it can be forgivable and forgettable. But in this case, Ronnie made grave, grave mistakes regarding how players could and would spend their money. And there's no doubt that a lot of people invested into their characters thinking they could change their takeovers, they could change their build, they could change their bodies. And according to Mike Wang, Baluba, the 2K developer, that is not true. Mike said he knew nothing about that. So we're just talking about facts right now. All right? Fact number 2. In addition to the, contradictions between Ronnie's words and the final product, players had a lot of issues with, a lot of technical issues that inhibited play. Some of them having to do with rep, right? Technical issues all over the place. Loading screens, blah, blah, blah. If you played the game before everybody got on, the loading was fine. So I knew the loading would get fixed once they adjusted and adapted whatever technical things they have to do with the servers. I wasn't too alarmed about that. But the important thing, the fact of the matter is, after those things went wrong, 2K was radio silent. And this is a cycle, right? 2K doesn't say anything all year about the new game. And then a couple of weeks before the game comes out, they start slowly giving out information. And like the last day and the day of the release of the game, everybody's on Twitter. And then the moment that the game is out, radio silence. So any problems you have with the game, there's no one to talk to you. And that leads me to the next fact, and probably the most crucial fact about all of this. And I really want you guys to understand what I'm saying. There is no one at 2K whose job it is to talk to you. All right? There's no one at 2K whose job it is to talk to you. So when I say this, that means no one is receiving a paycheck for delivering accurate information to you. Ronnie's job is the director of digital marketing. That means it is Ronnie 2K's job to market to you, right? So he can make an error about information while he's marketing to you. But as long as he markets to you and gets you interested, technically he did his main job. He might have just screwed up something else along the way. The same thing goes for Mike Wang and any of the developers or producers that talk to you. They can make mistakes because they only experts about their individual department, right? It's not their job to talk to you. And this is why they can go to radio silence, right? Because it's not their job to talk to you. They're doing this voluntarily. This is just something they're doing in their spare time. They do not receive $1 for talking to you. They receive $1 for whatever it says next to their name on the credits. And next to Ronnie 2K's name, it says Director of Digital Marketing. It does not say Community Manager. What this means, this is how a lot of companies used to run back in the day, and this is how people say elements of the government used to run. If nobody is in the know, then when I say I don't know, you can't blame me, right? So if it's no one's job to give you accurate information, when you get inaccurate information, it can be blamed on the chain of information. You see what I'm saying? Smedrick says marketing by advertising false info. I don't personally believe that Ronnie lied on purpose. I think this was a case of incompetence, not conspiracy, because it doesn't benefit 2K. Like, if there's any memo, any evidence that Ronnie was purposefully told by someone in the know to mislead the audience, 2K could have a class action lawsuit against them, right? Particularly because there's a VC investment, virtual currency investments involved in this situation. So this is a mistake. This is most likely a mistake on Ronnie's behalf. I can't tell you that for sure. I'm usually very reluctant to call someone a liar. I think this is an example of incompetence. But here's the truth of it. If there's no one's job, and it's just basic logic, guys. If there's no one's job to talk to you and tell you the truth, and it's no one's job to listen to your problems, when you receive something that's not true, and you have problems and there's nobody there to listen to you, this means fundamentally there's no one to be held accountable, because that's what a job is. The job is, here's a paycheck for what you are literally accountable for, right? You are accountable for this job description, right? And Ronnie is accountable for marketing. Mike Wang is accountable for gameplay direction. Scott OG is accountable for his element of the game. Czar is accountable for his element of the game. No one is accountable for you guys having problems with the game and taking your feedback. No one is accountable for giving you patch notes. No one is accountable for giving you detailed information about the game that concerns, your hardcore gaming desires and whatever for your various sections, right? So when someone makes a mistake, it's just oh, sorry about that. Sorry about that. We made a mistake. Sorry about that. But there's no one accountable for it. And this is the structural issue with 2K. And those are the facts. So now I'm going to give you my opinion on this and the problem. So 2K came out of being a single player game, basically. It was couch multiplayer, because the 2K is so old, it came before the internet, right? The internet was just a baby when 2K came out. And over the years, 2K has developed into basically a massively multiplayer RPG combined with a sports game. And if you look at the MMO games, right, they all have serious community management. And when I say serious community management, I mean before anyone is allowed to speak to their community, there's a chain of command and a whole bunch of fallbacks to make sure that whatever is written on that final piece of paper before they start speaking is accurate. So that when players have complaints or when players spend their money, they did it in good faith, right? With 2K, they were never that kind of company. So they never adapted to what they need for having such a large, vocal, microtransaction spending community, right? So without that person, it is bound, and I've been saying this for years, it is bound to happen that when you have a bunch of, no offense, developers and producers and marketing people running willy-nilly online, writing checks that 2K can't cash from a gameplay perspective, from a feature perspective, from, dates, all of that stuff, somebody's going to be wrong in an important way. And this year, I don't know if I can remember somebody at 2K saying something so wrong that it most likely cost people money. Because if I tell you that your build, which can cost anywhere, depending on how you invest your VC, I personally think about 60 to 70,000 is more than enough to get your character started if you're playing my career. But you're spending anywhere from $20 to $50 to get your build together. And if I tell you your build can be changed, you're spending that money thinking, oh, okay, I don't have to be cautious about this first build because I'm going to be able to change it at any time if I make a mistake. Now, when the truth comes out and Mike Wang says, no, you can't change anything. If you pick the wrong takeover, if you pick the wrong wingspan, if you pick the wrong archetype or invested into the wrong attributes, if this is really negatively affecting your gameplay experience, you have to spend more money to get that back. Maybe you don't have to, but you're forced between the choice of grinding or spending more money or just holding that L. Now, if Ronnie 2K never said that, the job is on you to say, let me really look at this build and make sure I get everything right. But since Ronnie opened his mouth and said the wrong thing, now you guys are in a situation where you may have made choices that you regret, that you didn't think you would have to regret because you were directly told otherwise. And because there's money and VC involved, that is quite frankly an unforgivable mistake. Now, just because I said that doesn't mean I'm saying hashtag fire Ronnie 2K. That is not the message I'm delivering because that is not Ronnie 2K's job. Right? He made a serious mistake, and I'm sure somebody's holding him accountable for it in some way. But the bottom line is the structure behind Ronnie 2K set him up for failure and has been setting him up for failure for years and years and years because this game is so big that and the way they roll out information is so delicate that if they don't give Ronnie 2K really accurate information that has been checked and rechecked. Is it in this build? Is it coming out at this time? You know what I'm saying? When's it going to be available? How much is it going to cost? Who's going to be able to have it? Which edition? You know what I'm saying? Are people going to get, and what are they going to get with which edition? Every single one of those points has to be 100% correct, and there needs to be an infrastructure making sure that it's correct, so that if Ronnie screws up, he can point and say, "Hey, 50 people told me that this was true." Whoever gave me this memo spoke to everybody. They spoke to all of the Mike Wangs and the Zach Timmermans and everybody. And they gave me this and told me it was right. So I'm sorry, he would say to his bosses, not to you guys, because obviously terrible PR. I'm sorry I got this wrong, but I just was doing my job. That's not what happened. It's willy-nilly. It's carefree. We're going to do it the same way we've always done it. And the way that they've always done it is radio silence, hype, release a game with a whole bunch of problems, and then radio silence. And the hilarious thing to me about the Fix 2K20 hashtag is that it's not a protest. It's not a boycott. It's literally just the community saying, you aren't telling us anything. We're asking you to fix 2K because since you are completely silent, we have no idea whether or not you're actually addressing these problems, whether you're reading these problems. LD2K comes out Monday and says, hey, we're reading these problems from the Reddit. We're on top of it. And as a person who is closer to the process than most, I'm 100% confident that they're working on those problems because they don't want a bad launch. They never want a bad launch. They want to release a perfect game every year. But the fact of the matter is, 2K has 9 months to create a game that probably takes a minimum of 14 months. So they spend 9 months getting out a version of it that's as good as they can get it, and then they spend another 2 months fixing it, and then they got to move on to the next one, right? And that's a tough situation. And I don't know what the solution to that is because this is the only basketball game in existence. So everybody talking about how easy this is to make it, you're wrong. If you look at how many lists of names on those credits of people who are basically one of 4 or 5 people in the world who can do that job at that level, this is a bunch of experts getting together to do something very difficult that is literally changing the game every single year. So there's going to be mistakes, there's going to be errors. But what's inexcusable is for the community to have no way to address these errors, no way to know that they're being heard, and no way to be sure that the information that they're receiving is accurate. And that's basically what I wanted to get into with this situation, is that while people want to get on Ronnie 2K for what he did, as well they should, because he gave them bad information, the idea that this is some kind of conspiracy, I actually think it's ridiculous, because for it to be conspiracy, the opposite of it would be that there's a tight infrastructure in place that could give you good information, and instead they gave you bad information on purpose. That's definitely not true. You've never received good information from 2K. It's just always been relatively minor because they say so little, and they keep, as Monitor says, the launch window so tight in terms of disseminating information that there's not a whole lot of, back and forth to be had. But you hear developers all the time saying, oh, I'm not sure about this, that's not my department, Ronnie 2K, I don't know if this will be ready, and blah, 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 blah. That happens all the time, right? So there is no tight infrastructure for the state of information sharing from the development, production side of 2K to the marketing side of 2K to the community management side of 2K, which actually doesn't even exist. All right? So with that situation set up the way it is, this is inevitable. This is inevitable because there's no way for Ronnie to know everything that's going on all over the place with the entire game, and it's no one's job to talk to you. Schmendrick asks, why the silence though? The silence is because it's not their job to talk to you. They have other jobs to do. Like, if you want what do you want Mike Wang doing? You want him fixing the gameplay, or do you want him on Twitter? What do you want Czar doing? Do you want him, studying what he's supposed to be doing, or you want him on Twitter? And the same goes for everybody working in 2K. There's no one talking to you because there's no one being paid to talk to you. It's very simple. It's actually much simpler than a lot of people make it out to be. That's it at the end of the day. And guys, hit the like button and subscribe if you're not already subscribed to the channel. And at this point, I'm open to questions, but I just wanted to relay this to you guys so that when you're upset and you're frustrated with 2K, you're frustrated about the right thing, right? Black 59 Razor asks, what's up, books? The way I'm explaining it, do I think 2K is using plausible deniability? What I honestly think is that 2K is a very successful company. And successful people tend to be stuck in the ways that got them to be successful. A friend of mine has an expression: people are frozen in the time of the year that they became a millionaire. Right? The year you became a millionaire, that's how you always are as an individual. And I think 2K is like that as a company. Whatever they got rich off of, they're going to do stuff like that. And until it actually bites them in a big way, they don't feel a need to change. And if you're not as successful as them, there's nothing you can say to them that makes sense to make them change. Why would a rich, super successful person change when somebody less successful and less, rich than they are tells them to change? Because it's the right thing to do. No, that doesn't make sense to those guys. So they're going to do what they feel is right, which is all any of us can do. It just so happens in this case, the emperor has no clothes, and the entire 2K community knows that 2K is working on an outdated format. And if you don't have a community manager or some semblance of information control where everything you're telling the players is has checks and balances to make sure it's accurate, and the players know that when they speak back to you, they're being heard, and that also has checks and balances, then it's not going to work. And the community is just going to go crazy. And that's one of the reasons that 2K is famous for having one of the quote-unquote worst communities amongst everybody. And I think this is across the board. Like, the viewership of the competitive community is largely trash. Most of the viewership is in the park. The attitudes of some of the players, the competitive attitudes of some of the players, the way people express their opinions, it is the way it is because 2K has set up the situation for anarchy. And the reason they can do that, and again, I'm not telling people to boycott the game and not spend your money, I'm just speaking facts, is all this ever amounts to is the game comes out, there's a whole bunch of problems, everybody moans and cries about it, it seems like the world is falling down, and then a few weeks later, everything is basically fixed. The game is what the game is. A large segment of the community is on to either working on their YouTube channels or grinding out their characters or doing whatever they're doing. And that first horror show of a week is just a memory that people forget the next time it launches badly. And they say this is the worst launch ever, forgetting about the time that the game wouldn't even download for 2 days. Right? 48 hours people pre-ordered the game and they're looking at a download screen playing, I think, Spurs versus Heat. And this is the worst launch ever when there was a launch where you couldn't even play the game. So, my recommendation is basically when you go to 2K, when you hashtag, don't buy into the rage and the frustrations. Even if you are frustrated, you have a right to be frustrated. If you played a 12-minute My Career game and you didn't get rep for it and your rep bar was frozen, so you're playing Park and Pro-Am games, you're not getting anything for it, you have every right to be frustrated. I'm just saying that doesn't work because that doesn't address the problem. If you want to address the problem is no one's paid to give the community accurate information. So 2K is basically at liberty to give you bad information and just apologize for it later with no repercussions. There's nobody who's worried about getting fired for giving you bad information because it's nobody's job it is to give you good information. That's pretty straightforward, right? And then on the side of listening to you, when they're radio silent and there's no one listening, and you don't think there's anyone listening to you, I think they're listening. They're just not telling you they're listening because they're trying to work on stuff. They got patches being released and patches being worked on and different things on different schedules, and they don't want to make false promises. This kind of thing is very complicated. I'm not trying to oversimplify this, and like I said, I'm not trying to demonize 2K. I think this is certain dinosaur tactics that people are used to doing from back in the old days, when the bottom line is you have a modern MMO wearing a jersey and compression shorts. All right? This isn't, Bulls versus Blazers. All right? This isn't Double Dribble. This isn't 2K2. This is, Destiny. This is Elder Scrolls Online. And when you have a game like that, and you have a community and you want that community to spend its money in good faith on your product, then you have to have a good faith communication with that community and treat them like adults. And trotting out Ronnie 2K, who again, no offense to him, but he's essentially a mascot for 2K. He is not a community manager, right? He's a mascot for the game. So trotting him out as if he's speaking for the game when there's no way he has all of the necessary information and no way he's going to be around to field your issues after the game is out. that's not treating your community like adults. And if you don't treat your community like adults, they feel no obligation to act like adults. And that's the bottom line as far as that goes. So that was pretty much it, guys. That's what I think I think the whole fix 2K20 thing, it was amusing because it was number one trending. It was cool to see the community really just asking for fixes, which is great. That's not toxic at all, honestly. Some of the community had ridiculous demands, and some of it was about gameplay. Is nothing that needs to be fixed, just stuff that they don't like. But I like the idea that they're just kind of like, hey, listen to us. That's what the hashtag was, and in that sense, for the hashtag and what it set out to accomplish and all that other stuff. But I think the game is going to be fine. I think once they get a handle on it, it'll probably be my personal favorite 2K since 2K16. The only thing I genuinely don't like about the game is the gameplay in my career. It's like really horrendous, but outside of that, I'm mostly happy with it, and most of my problems with the game are bug related. So that's pretty much that, y'all. Again, if y'all have any questions, I'm happy to answer those questions. This was not a rant or a call out. Well, it's probably a little bit of a rant, but this wasn't a call out or a roast of 2K. There's plenty of that. This wasn't drama farming. I want the 2K community to really understand that as long as the structure of 2K's community management, quote unquote, public relations, quote unquote, is the way it is, the potential for this cycle to repeat is very, very high. Right? You're not going to hear anything about the game till a couple of weeks before it comes out. You don't really have time to react to stuff. You're going to get an iffy demo. You're going to get some assurances that the demo isn't the game. Then the game's going to come out. Some of what they said is true. Some of what they said is not. If what's not true is a minor thing, you're not going to make a big deal out about it. If it's a major thing and there's like a VC bug, you're going to make a big deal out of it. They're going to fix it probably within a week. Everybody's going to go to playing the game because it's a good game. It's a fun game. All their friends play the game. See you next year until we repeat the cycle again. And if you guys want that cycle to break, you have to start demanding that 2K communicate with you like adults. Everything Pro Wrestling, how can 2K fix the issues? What needs to happen as we transition to next gen? 2K needs to have better communication. That's really what it comes down to at the end of the day. Certain things like server issues, I don't know if that can be prevented on a game this large the way 2K does the game. People want to compare it to other games like your Call of Duties or Overwatch or strict MMOs. 2K has very different kinds of information. 2K has very different kinds of information on their servers, and they have a very different structure on their servers. So I don't think server issues are, at launch particularly, are 100% preventable. But how they communicate with you about server issues is preventable. I don't think, like on a timeline as short as 2K, it's roughly 9 months that they have to make the game. Between how games launch and how games are post-launch, you kind of have to take a month or 3 off of their actual development cycle year by year. And they're trying to give you guys brand new features and animations and gameplay every single year. So, those problems aren't really preventable either. There just simply isn't enough time to, even if they had twice the amount of people making the game, you still need that moment to check over what you made, right? How many times have you heard a developer say, that's an old build, I'm not sure what's in that build, right? It's because when a build goes out, everybody doesn't know what was in that build. They were working on the final build, They don't know what's in the demo all the time. They don't know what's in the community day build all the time because they're not worried about it, because it's just something for people to try out. So they don't have 14, 16, 18, 24 months like other games have. They only have 9 months to make this game. There's going to be problems, right? If you don't like it, there's an easy solution. Don't buy the game on launch, right? If you want a perfect 2K game, buy it in January. But realistically, if you're a big fan of 2K, you're not going to do that. You're not going to miss beating up on all of the newbies who come in, playing park with their 75 overalls. That's a ton of fun. You're not going to miss my team when it's not really meta yet and everybody doesn't have good cards, so you just accept it. You know, you're like an Apple early adopter. That new Apple product is probably going to have some trash feature in it in the iOS that you're the first one to discover and be like, this is garbage. Yeah, well, why'd you wait online? Right? So if you're going to be online for the new 2K release, you accept some buyer's risk. But you have every right to ask, hey, I'm assuming buyer's risk and I'm willing to deal with these problems, but how about you open up the lines of communication so that when I talk to you about these problems, A, I can give you a hardcore perspective on what the problems are, and B, I can be assured that you heard what those problems are, and then I'll trust that you'll fix them. And if you don't fix them, I won't see you next year. If you do fix them, thanks for working so hard. End of the day, GG's. Somebody asked if I was talking about LD2K. Was he the community manager? He was labeled as the community manager years and years ago, but this is not a community manager in the structure of MMOs, first and foremost, and that is not his current job title. LD2K is the host of 2K TV, and I know he said that he's working on some stuff closer to the game creation side of things. I don't know exactly the capacity of that. Most of us are big fans of LD2K, but this isn't on him. You'll notice his communication has been fairly limited throughout all of this. He is definitely not a community manager. And as we're talking about facts, when I say there's no community manager and that there's nobody's job, I mean literally nobody's getting a paycheck to show up Monday morning and say, okay, the patch notes are out. Okay, what's happening on Twitter? What's happening on Reddit? What's happening on YouTube? Developers, are you aware of this? That's nobody's job. All right? So, look, 2K could call an intern a community manager. If they never do that job, they don't have one. Right? And that's all you guys care about is somebody who's actually responsible for making sure that this stuff either doesn't happen or but when it does happen is fixed immediately. So like Ronnie 2K, I think the biggest issue about what Ronnie 2K said, and this is why I say it's not all his fault. It's partially his fault for sure, but it's not all his fault because just think about it. In most companies, if a movie's coming out and somebody said something about like my company Marvel, I work for Marvel Comics. If somebody said something about a Marvel movie that wasn't true, they wouldn't even get to lunch before they got a phone call. Yo, that's not real. That character's not in this movie. You got to go on Twitter and fix it now. I'm setting you up for an interview to get this done. Ronnie 2K said that nonsense about respecing like Wednesday or Thursday or Tuesday, and we didn't hear from 2K officially at all. And we heard from Mike, and Mike didn't say it's not in the game. Mike said, I don't know where that came from. Right? You have to listen to the language of this stuff. He didn't say that's not in the game, that won't be in the game. That 2K, Ronnie 2K had bad information. He didn't get to any details. And the way he described it, there's no personal accountability. And I'm not attacking Mike for this. I'm just describing the facts of what happened. And I don't know if I remember to say this. If anybody from 2K is watching this video, I invite you to correct me about anything that I say that is factually wrong here, because I'm more than happy to take this video down and replace it with a detailed apology explaining exactly what I had wrong. But I'm trying to speak factually about what was said, what was done, and what's going on. In the case of Mike Wang, he said, I don't know where that came from. And everyone thinks that Mike is the emperor overlord of everything 2K. He's the gameplay director. There are people, many, many people below him. There are also many people above him. Right? Maybe not many, but there are people above him. So if Mike says, I don't know where that came from, that still leaves the door open that this feature could pop in later in the year. Ronnie 2K could say he heard it from here. It was supposed to be done, but it wasn't done. They didn't tell Mike about it. They got lost in the sauce in terms of information sharing. That's not 2K officially coming out and saying, Ronnie 2K gave y'all bad information. We apologize. He's in the back room doing 5,000 push-ups. And, it'll never happen again. We're so sorry. Because that's accountability, right? If Ronnie 2K makes a mistake, there's supposed to be checks and balances. Somebody that immediately comes out and goes, whoa, what's going on in your Twitter feed, bro? Respect. We're not giving these people infinite characters. Let's figure how do we fix this situation? There was no how do we fix this situation. In this context, as far as we know it, Mike Wang is a rogue developer doing the best he can to correct information according to how he knows it. That is not 2K as an entity correcting their employees' mistake about misleading people about how they can spend their money and build their characters, which are heavy time and money resources both. That is not. As it is, officially, 2K has not addressed this mistake. All right? So let's get that straight on top of everything else. Officially, if I'm just going by the facts, I don't know where respecking is. I know that Ronnie said it's in the game, and Mike said it's not, and Mike said he doesn't know anything about it. I don't know what 2K is officially saying about respecking, because who would I ask? I know people at 2K, and I don't know who to ask about that. I know Czar don't know nothing about no respecking. I know OG don't know nothing about no respecking. Literally don't even know. It's not their section of the game. Right? So this is my point. The structure doesn't have solutions built into it. And at the end of the day, 2K is able to say, oops, our bad. And, you know, we're working on stuff. We hear you guys every few days. Sorry, guys. We hear you guys. We're working on stuff. And I think for most things, that's fine. But when it comes to, you know, how you spend your money, when it comes to patch notes, there's just a proven method that works for this that 2K is not using. There's no excuse for not having patch notes on the day before the afternoon that the patch is released. There's no excuse that even if you don't have a community manager, which they don't, if somebody like a Ronnie 2K or a Mike Wang, who is voluntarily, and not in Ronnie's case, is part of his job to be on Twitter. It's not his job to give you accurate information. But in Mike's case, he don't have to be on Twitter at all. That's not his job. Mike is voluntarily on Twitter. He's just jumping in and double dutching into that role. If he says something wrong, there's no structure, no infrastructure around to come in and be like, that was wrong. Yo, am I looking at this right in the background? Dallas has scored 0 points against the Orlando Magic. I see what happened. I'm in the controller. I was supposed to be CPU versus CPU. I apologize for the terrible gameplay in the background. But now I'm going to find out if you get VC for doing this. But yeah, so that's pretty much it, guys. The problem with Ronnie 2K is not that Ronnie 2K needs to be fired from his job, because he's probably doing his job well because the game sells well. It's not Ronnie 2K's job to give you good information. It's not Ronnie 2K's job to listen to you. It's not Ronnie 2K's job to give you patch notes. It's not Ronnie 2K's job to inform you of the status of fixes that are on the way. It's not even Ronnie's job to correct his own. It's not even Ronnie's job to correct his own mistakes. It's Ronnie's job to be the director of digital marketing. It is his job to sell you the game. Now, when he sells you the game, he's not allowed to falsely advertise. That's between y'all and Ronnie 2K, how y'all feel about that. Obviously, he made a mistake. We can all agree that he gave false information. I don't personally believe it's intentional. I don't think that's a rational conclusion based on what we know. I think it was misinformation, but this is the thing. Incompetence is not an excuse for the mistakes you make. When you make a mistake and you were ignorant of something or you were incompetent in some way, it is your job as an individual to correct how you got to that place, right? And you go back and you say, what in my process led me to screwing up? And then you fix it. And in this situation, the person is not Ronnie 2K. The person is 2K, right? 2K as a collective, when one of their members puts out bad information, has to say, how do we correct this situation so that A, bad information doesn't go out, and B, if bad information goes out, we make sure that our community isn't working off that bad information and spending their money in bad faith. And that's what y'all need to ask for. Big Heck Money says 2K has no love for consumers, really. I don't think that's an accurate way to look at a company producing a product. I think they love creating a game and they want to make an awesome game and they want that game to come out and they want people to be happy from it. As a person who works in an industry where I don't just have a regular job, I produce work that brings people joy and they come back to me and they're like, that made me so happy. I don't want to be over cynical about that stuff. At the same time, I'd also say it's naive to expect a corporation to love you. If you're looking for love in a corporation, you looking in the wrong place, man. Their job is to make money. It just so happens in the case of 2K, it's a mutually beneficial relationship because we want a wonderful basketball game and they want to make a wonderful basketball game and get rich off of it. And usually, everybody gets a version of what they want. It's just we have this one problem in our relationship. Y'all ain't communicating, which is the problem of all bad relationships, right? Our communication is messed up right now. And that's the truth of the Ronnie 2K situation, is that Ronnie is just the face of 2K's bad information, but he is not the source of 2K's bad information. And if you take anything from this, take that basic point. You know, Ronnie is the face of their bad communication, but he is not the source of their bad communication. And in this case, their bad communication definitely cost some people either time, money, or both with characters that they thought that they could respect that they can't respect. And that is frankly inexcusable. And I know 2K is not proud of that. They're not happy that they made that mistake. But their feelings, they're just as important as your feelings, which is not at all. Right? We're all grown-ups here. All the wah-wahs, I feel so bad that you cost me money. I feel so bad that I cost you money. That's not relevant. What's relevant is, how did this screw up happen? How do we prevent it from happening? What's mutually beneficial for 2K and the community? Right? That's the only language anybody really cares about. So what's that? So that's pretty much it, guys. Thank you for tuning in to watching the stream. I see that we're 50 strong. I see a bunch of likes. If you haven't hit the like button, please do hit the like button. Stay tuned here. Again, this is not a roast or a drama thing. This is just trying to improve the community and improve 2K's relationship with the community, because I think this is a fixable situation that if enough members of the community are really clear about it, we can break this cycle so that we don't have the frustrated, angry mob on one side and the silent corporation without a face on the other side. Let's get a healthy community working together to, expedite the solutions that come from that are needed for the problems of creating a game this big, this ambitious every year. All right. Thanks for watching. Thanks for liking, for subscribing, for participating in the chat. Yeah, definitely. Please share this video because I think we need more than just 2K being silent on one side and people randomly saying fire Ronnie 2K on the other side. I don't think that is the road to solutions in the game. You know what I'm saying? And that's it, guys. I am done. Get one Dirk fade before we go. Let's go. And I'm going to get out of here. All right. Thank you, everybody, for watching. See you all Thursday. And there will be more My Career videos on the way for a whole bunch of stuff. How to deal with the CPU's pressure defense. Look for that. We'll be talking builds throughout the year. We'll be talking park meta throughout the year. And as usual, I think we almost definitely have a show this Thursday night, so be prepared for that as well. All right, thanks and peace.